I think a lot of us don't speak out aloud to ourselves enough. And I know that talking to yourself isn't necessarily something that most people will recommend, but I actually think it's really, really important. And I actually have a favorite quote about this, which I use all the time because I love Dorothy Parker. And she wrote this beautiful line. Let me see if I can get it right. Of course, I talk to myself. I love a good speaker, and I really appreciate an intelligent audience. That's not the only reason why you should speak to yourself, but yeah, for company, sure, why not? But also, there's a couple of reasons. So, the first one, I think everyone is going to have heard me say ad nauseum, which is you do not become a good speaker by writing, you become a good speaker by speaking. And this is very important as well, not only because you need to get comfortable speaking out loud. This is something that not everyone does when you're training yourself as a speaker. I'm not saying rehearse in front of the mirror. I'm not saying do that. Don't do that. But just practice expressing yourself, especially around the content that you're speaking about. It's so important. And it can just be talking to yourself while you're washing the dishes. This is something that I do all the time. It's like a little ritual for me. But it is important because you need to get comfortable being heard, taking up space, being loud. So many of us have issues around being heard, around being loud, and that is not going to go away unless you practice it. It's not going to become comfortable unless it becomes normal for you. So if that's something that isn't normal for you, you have to normalize it. That's just, it has to happen. Talking to yourself on Zoom, recording yourself, doing a little rant like this. You don't even need to put it on YouTube. You can just talk to yourself. It's such great practice. You want to practice speaking. You do not become a better speaker by writing. The other thing is just muscularly, your speaking muscles, your lips, your tongue, your cheeks, your jaw, all that stuff, they actually require a lot of brain power in order to work properly. I don't know if you've noticed that I go on occasional articulation rants as well, because the motor skills involved in speaking are the reason there's a part of our brain devoted to language. Not grammar, not vocabulary, not all the stuff we learn in school. That's not what the extra bit of brain is for. The extra bit of brain is for the movement of the mouth, of the tongue and the teeth. And well, your teeth don't move, but you know, we move against the teeth with the tongue. Those kind of things. That's actually the most difficult part of speaking. And that's why we do tongue twisters. That's why people will flub and, get frustrated and seize up, because there's a motor skill element to this that, yes, you speak during the day, but it's not the same. There's a heightened way of speaking when we're doing public speaking or, course content or things like that. We want to be more articulate. We want to make sure that people can really hear us, but also you're in a heightened state. You're more alive, you're more on than usual, and you're being more articulate, hopefully. Hopefully you are more kind of condensed and concise in the way that you're speaking, more organized than just a casual conversation. All of those things come into account and you have to practice them. So getting used to using your mouth and having your brain and your mouth work together in a spontaneous way, not in a way that's like memorized or you're reading something, but just speaking your mind from your heart in a way that is spontaneous and real. Doing that over and over again will help you distill that practice so you get better at it. If you know that most of your speaking slots are 5 minutes or 1 minute or 10 minutes, set a timer and speak until the timer goes off and then stop. And then take a break and then speak until the timer goes off again. You will build an internal clock for knowing how long that is, how long it takes to express something, how you can condense it down. You don't necessarily need to get very scientific about it. You don't necessarily need to take notes. Just through doing it over and over again, your body will learn. If you think about speaking like a physical process, like dance, for example, it is kind of like dance. You have all these movements that your mouth needs to deal with. If you think of it that way, it is just practice and it gets into your body, it gets into your muscle memory. And that's what we want. We want thinking and speaking spontaneously, organically, to become part of your muscle memory. And what's cool about it too is if you speak out loud a lot to yourself, you will hear yourself in different moods. You will hear yourself when you're faking it. You will hear yourself when you're really connected. You will hear yourself when you're distracted. And you'll start to learn what those things sound like, which is so important. As a speaker, listening is a big part of it. Not just listening to your audience, but also listening to yourself. So that when you are, sometimes you don't notice that you're nervous until you hear your voice, like, oh, I'm not connected. And then you can do something about it because you know what truth sounds like as well. You know what it sounds like when you're passionate. You know what it sounds like when you're in flow. And you can find that because you've practiced, because you've done it over and over and over again. The power of repetition is just so underrated. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Not repeating in a way that is on autopilot, not repeating in a way that is dead, because then you're just going to just do the same thing over and over and get bored and check out. But repeating in an intentional, mindful way. You just need the awareness and the attention. It doesn't need to be this big scientific take notes kind of thing. It can just be with that awareness of, I want to improve. What can I notice? How can I be observant about this? How did it feel? Just checking in with yourself and asking yourself those questions will often be enough. And the coolest thing too is that you're doing your own evaluation. So it's not me kind of going, oh, that wasn't very good, or oh, you didn't sound real there, or whatever. It's you checking in with yourself. So you are going to become more authentic. You're going to become more you. Hopefully, you're not listening to other people's voices in your head being like, you should do this. This is boring. Don't listen to those voices. Listen to your real, true self expression and what you think of as you and who your magic, weird, quirky self is, and letting that, feeling that joy as well. You know, because it's not just what you sound like, it's how you feel when you express. All of these things, they need to be practiced. You get good at what you practice. So if you aren't speaking out loud consistently, like if you're not networking kind of all day, every day, if you're not speaking in a way that is for your business, that is heightened, that is spontaneous, you need to create that for yourself. So talk to yourself. You might not always get to be on a podcast, you know, every day or even once a week, maybe, you know, but you still need to build that skill. You don't want the only time you are building that skill to be when you are on stage, when it matters, when the stakes are high. You don't want to be building your skill when you get to that point. You want your skill to already be there. So practice, create your own videos, do Facebook Lives to yourself in a private group that no one else can see. Whatever you need to do, talk to yourself when you're walking the dog. Talk to the dog. Even better, a real live audience that will give you expressions back and will react to you. Even better. But practice forming your thoughts. Practice speaking in a way that makes sense instead of just kind of, you know, brain dumping and, you know, word vomiting. Practice making a point. Practice some sort of structure. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. All the things that you want to do in your professional speaking life, practice those out loud by yourself. Try not to do it in front of the mirror because you don't want to get self-conscious. The idea of this is that you want to normalize it. You want to feel more natural. So if you are doing it in front of the mirror, or if you're trying to, you know, create a script or something, that's actually going to limit you in this process. But the more free you can be with it, the more open and unself-conscious and organic and just feel it through, you will improve. Even if you do nothing else, even if you don't know anything about speaking, even if you don't, you know, go look up the most basic rules, if you just speak out loud intentionally and with awareness every day for say 5 minutes, you will improve. You won't be able to help it because it'll happen organically. So if you don't talk to yourself, or if you do talk to yourself and people tell you you shouldn't, refer them to me. I think we should all talk to ourselves. Maybe not, you know, in certain circumstances, but just put one of these in, walk down the street, talk to yourself. people will think you're on the phone, so it's fine. That's an actor's trick. When you're learning lines, you just put your phone in and Bluetooth phone and walk down the street and do your lines. But you just got to be careful that the phone doesn't ring because then it's very embarrassing. All right, that is my tip for today. Please speak out loud, practice speaking, normalize it. Remember that you are your audience and you are the best person to help you know if you're being real, if you're being authentic, and if you like what you hear. So practice, talk to yourself.